It's award season! Award season is suddenly upon us like a slap to Chris Rock's face, and next up on the docket is the 2022 Grammy Award. This year's nominations for music's biggest night have gotten less negative buzz than last year, though it would honestly be the exact opposite of a miracle if the Recording Academy managed to beat last year's perfect storm. Speaking of last year, that was the last time I talked about the Grammys in depth. Their history, their voting process, this one guy with the iPad, and the systemic issues that have plagued and still plague them. Much of that video is still relevant, and I recommend you check it out if you want a good baseline understanding of what the Grammys really are. But I realized it's one thing to air out my grievances with the Grammys as an institution, but it's another thing to hold their feet to the fire, so to speak. So I figured, why not do a check-in on the Grammys, see if they've made any changes that make for a better process, and speculate on what's gonna win this year. Let's see what the Recording Academy has been up to since 2021. Part 1. The 2021 ceremony. Since my last Grammys video came out right before the 2021 award ceremony, I didn't get to talk about the show proper. It was hosted by The Daily Show's Trevor Noah, and in order to prevent any possible spread of COVID, the structure of the show was modified. Awards were presented outdoors, and performances were held in a large space with multiple stages. If you've ever seen the BBC show Later with Jules Holland, this was very similar. There were many times when an artist would play, and then the next artist would immediately follow them up. And I really liked it. It made the evening feel more like a big casual jamboree, less about the slog of the typical award show and more about getting a whole bunch of big musicians in one room and seeing what they do. Sure, the whole thing still went past the 3-hour mark, but there were times where it moved at, dare I say, a brisk pace. I very much hope the 2022 ceremony retains some of that energy, but I'm pretty sure it won't. As far as the awards they gave out, nothing was too surprising. Taylor Swift got Album of the Year for Folklore, which was the correct and right choice in my opinion. Megan Thee Stallion won Best New Artist, also good. Her won for Song of the Year. I didn't even know this was a song until she won, but it was also written as part of the George Floyd protests from 2020, so I think that's fine. The biggest controversy of the night was Billie Eilish winning Record of the Year for the second year in a row. I personally like the song that won, Everything I Wanted, but I think some, including Billie herself, were a bit sick of the overexposure. She then said that she would give the award to Megan Thee Stallion if she could. This is always awkward. It's that thing that's happened at the Grammys a bunch where a white artist wins and says they wish a black artist could have won instead. It's certainly a nice sentiment, while low-key recognizing the Academy's strained relationship with black music, but it feels like them doing proactive damage control before the think pieces roll in. All in total, though, a pretty successful evening, on the surface at least. But if you remember, the 2021 ceremony was mired in controversy. Everyone from The Weeknd to the children's music nominees had an issue with the Recording Academy's process, and much of the ire was targeted towards the nominations review committees, the groups of middlemen that would review the initial shortlist for most categories and whittle them down to the main nominees. These committees were first formed to ensure a baseline of legitimacy for the nominees, but had since become a severe blight on the Academy's voting process, raising more questions than answers. My hope was that between last year's ceremony and this year's, the Academy would reveal more about these committees and the process they use to prepare the proper nominee list. Instead, NRCs are just gone now? Part 2. NRCs are just gone now. In late April 2021, the Recording Academy announced that the nominations review committees had been given the boot. Well, I should say, they were given the boot for the general and genre categories. They're still in place for the technical categories like production and engineering. Personally, I'm okay with that. Those categories were already limited to those working in the related fields. Plus, I doubt any fan armies will lose sleep over their favorite artist not winning best liner notes. This decision is a good move in my opinion, and it was championed by artists like The Weeknd, who was notoriously snubbed from the 2021 nominations, though he still plans to not submit his music for Grammy consideration. I think the real effects of this change will only be visible in the long term, because we still have to see what the Academy nominates and gives awards to without NRCs in place. It's also worth remembering that the Academy could certainly get up to some real goofiness in a pre-NRC world. This is the same institution that gave Album of the Year to Tony Bennett's MTV Unplugged and Best Rock Song to Eric Clapton over Smells Like Teen Spirit, and they didn't need NRCs to do that. But still, the Academy does deserve some props for making that change. Now we just need to get that eligibility window looking like an actual calendar year. Part 3. Other changes. The removal of NRCs was definitely the biggest change in the Academy's voting process following the 2021 show, but it wasn't the only one. The Academy modified the Album of the Year category, making it so that any featured artist, producer, songwriter, or engineer who worked on a nominated album will be nominated for a Grammy. For context, before this change, someone had to work on at least 33% of an album to be nominated. This move was mostly celebrated since it allowed consideration of a more mobile and collaborative music industry, especially when it came to songwriters. The Academy also reduced the number of categories a member can vote in from 15 to 10. Still doesn't fix the issue of someone less versed in a particular genre voting in said genre, but still an attempt was made. Also, you might remember how there was a lot of controversy over former Academy head Deborah Dugan, her sudden departure, and the report she dropped about the Academy's sketchy dealings. The only updates I could find on that within the past year were Grammy officials opting out of a public hearing for Dugan's complaints in June 2021, and the two parties settling the month after. Whatever really went on with Dugan, I don't think we're gonna learn the details of it for a good while, if ever. Anything else? You know, I'm not surprised, but I am disappointed. Part 4, the 2022 nominations. Christmas came early for those who think Christmas is in late November, as the 2022 Grammy nominations were revealed on November 23rd, 2021. The most significant visible change was the expansion from 8 nominees in the main categories to 10. The Academy's president, Harvey Mason Jr., heralded the change, saying, quote, "This is us honoring more great artists, more great music, giving artists an opportunity to shine and showcase." In my view, it's fine. It reminds me of when the Oscars, facing uproar over The Dark Knight and WALL-E not getting a nod, expanded Best Picture to 10 films. A harmless change on the surface, though it's not like it changes the actual voting process at all. The Grammy voting body values music that makes the industry look good, and giving them more options isn't going to keep them from their predestined path. It's like standing in front of a wild bear, but someone put out a selection of salads to sway its attention. By that point, the bear's already made up its mind. But still, the bump up to 10 is fine. And then it got a little bit weird. Soon after the nominations came out, the New York Times discovered that the decision to expand was made very last minute. We're talking the day before the nominations were made public. The proof was a nominee list that was circulating right before the public announcement, a list that had 8 nominees for the big 4 categories. The New York Times said that this change directly benefited artists like Taylor Swift and Kanye West for Album of the Year, and Lil Nas X and ABBA for Record of the Year. I feel like this is where I should rant about how this is another example of the Academy's shady practices, and yet the most I can muster to this news is weird but okay. If there was more damning evidence of how this was tilting the playing field, then sure, that would be bad. But would Taylor and Kanye really be that hard up for Grammys to try to expand the nominee list? Can Kanye's toilet fit any more Grammys? I'm just confused by this news and how not important it is, but how this story makes it seem like it should be more important. Beyond the behind-the-scenes shenanigans, the nominees were met with the usual scrutiny and backlash. Louis C.K. and Marilyn Manson were given Grammy noms, though Manson's was revoked a few weeks later. Taylor Swift was initially nominated as a songwriter on Olivia Rodrigo's Sour, but that was also pulled. Drake just went ahead and removed himself from Grammy consideration. Casey Musgraves wasn't allowed to compete in the country categories, and Bo Burnham wasn't able to compete in any comedy categories. So still plenty of discourse, but nothing on the level of the Weeknd snubs. Phew. Part 5. Predictions! The award I'm always most focused on, aside from the most important one, Best Engineered Album Non-Classical, is the Album of the Year. 2021's nominations were baffling. Not in a I don't like any of these way, but more of a did I live through the same 2020 as the Academy way. The 2022 Album of the Year nominees are fine. They are fine. I don't love every one of these records, but they all make some amount of sense being on here. Evermore, Taylor Swift's sequel to the album that won last year, and one that I actually kinda like more on some days. While I'm not a big fan in general of people winning awards twice in a row, I wouldn't be too miffed if Taylor got it again. Sour. Out of all the records nominated, this was the one that defined 2021 the most. An instant star-making debut for Olivia Rodrigo. Also, if she wins this, she'd beat Billie Eilish for youngest person to win Album of the Year. Speaking of which, Happier Than Ever. I know this one has gotten a more mixed reaction than her Grammy-winning debut album did, but I personally think Billie Eilish's second album is a more cohesive and fulfilling project. I would not die inside if this won. Planet Her. Doja Cat finally getting christened as one of today's pop megastars / memers.
Spaghetti story brownie time.
An enjoyable dance pop record with some of the biggest songs of 2021 and its best. Montero. Lil Nas X proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that he's not a one-hit wonder. proving that he is more than able to take his horse to the Old Town Road and ride it till he can't no more. Donda. Putting aside all the drama surrounding it, Donda is Kanye West's best album in years. A guest-packed, sprawling endeavor with some of his best production ever. Back of my mind. Her's latest album being on here reminds me of Jacob Collier getting nominated last year. They are both very technically talented musicians, but their music rarely ever makes me feel that one feeling where you feel a feeling. We Are. Okay. Sure. Fine. Random? Fine. Love for Sale. The only thing I'm gonna say about this is it would be very funny if Lady Gaga, one of the most sonically progressive pop stars of the past decade, won her first Album of the Year Grammy for singing show tunes and standards with Tony Bennett. Cannot overstate how funny that would be. Justice. Peaches is a catchy song, so which of these is gonna win? Well, I'd normally vote for Evermore, but I don't really want Taylor winning 2 years in a row. I think Sour makes the most sense, but I feel like the Academy will shower Olivia with the Song Awards and not the Album Awards. Same with Doja Cat. Billie winning again is certainly possible. The record is good, sure, but I'm thinking more because the Grammys have some kind of addiction to giving her awards. I think Montero winning could happen, and it would make for a nice closing to Lil Nas X's career journey so far. From Old Town Road to a pretty good album about self-discovery. Her, Jon Batiste, and Bennett and Gaga certainly have a chance to be the Grammy wildcard, but I think they're gonna end up splitting the vote. I should also say, Kanye's never won this award before, and with Donda being his best album in years, warts and all, the Recording Academy might pull a Departed and give him the award as a sort of career achievement recognition. Granted, Kanye was barred last week from performing this year due to his recent Instagram behavior, but Grammy voting closed back in January, so we may be in for a very awkward night if Donda wins. We'll also get to relive all of the discourse surrounding the album. So to sum up, I want Olivia or Lil Nas X to win. I think Olivia, Kanye, or Billie will win. And just to consider the wild cards, that Jon Batiste album is Jason Momoa sneaking up on Henry Cavill, if you know what I mean. And while I'm here, I'll commit my terrible opinions to tape and predict the other big 3 categories in the same way. What I want to win, what I think will win, and the unhinged Grammy curveball. For Record of the Year, we have ABBA's I Still Have Faith in You, Jon Batiste's Freedom, Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga's I Get a Kick Out of You, Justin Bieber's Peaches, Brandi Carlile's Right on Time, Doja Cat's Kiss Me More, Billie Eilish's Happier Than Ever, Lil Nas X's Montero, Call Me By Your Name, Olivia Rodrigo's Driver's License, and Silk Sonic's Leave the Door Open. As a reminder, Record of the Year rewards production, so I want Doja to win purely for that. For who I think will win, I'd say Doja, Silk Sonic, or Olivia, though personally I think Driver's License is a better songwriting showcase than production showcase. If this was good for you, then this would be a way different story. For the Grammy curveball, I don't think they're above giving it to Billie for a 3rd time in a row. Doesn't hurt that Happier Than Ever is a really good track. I could also see Bieber winning. ABBA too, considering they've never won a Grammy in their entire career, and the Academy might want to pull the Lifetime Achievement move for them. For Song of the Year, which rewards songwriting, Ed Sheeran's Bad Habits, Alicia Keys and Brandi Carlile's A Beautiful Noise, Olivia Rodrigo's Driver's License, Her's Fight for You, Billie Eilish's Happier Than Ever, Doja Cat's Kiss Me More, Silk Sonic's Leave the Door Open, Lil Nas X's Montero, Call Me By Your Name, Justin Bieber's Peaches, and Brandi Carlile's Right on Time. I'm fairly certain that Olivia is gonna get this one, but I would be happy with Olivia, Silk Sonic, or Billie winning this one. Again, Happier Than Ever is a great tune. For the Grammy curveball, they could totally go with Her for a 2nd year in a row, or God forbid, Ed Sheeran. And finally, Best New Artist: Arooj Aftab, Jimmy Allen, Baby Keem, Phineas, Glass Animals, Japanese Breakfast, The Kid Laroi, Arlo Parks, Olivia Rodrigo, and Sweetie. Putting aside her not newness, I'd love to see Japanese Breakfast win. Would also be happy to see Baby Keem walk away with it, but let's be real, it's Olivia. There is no conceivable way she doesn't win. Unless they pick Phineas. Ooh, you know the Grammys could totally do that, and they'd play it real smooth too, like, hey, this guy got his start on Glee and now he's blossomed into a great solo artist. Please don't remember all those times he already won Grammys or when he was up there with Billie Eilish when she won awards. This guy is totally new to the scene. Part 6. Have the Grammys gotten better A little bit? My overall stance on the Grammys still holds true. They reward legacy and safety over diversity and innovation. The only thing that would truly correct them is a dismantling of the Academy and the music industry at large. Plus, I'm making this video before the 2022 ceremony, and it's certainly possible that we're in for a night where Tony Bennett wins every award, including the ones he isn't even nominated for. But still, there have been some good changes, and if I'm gonna drag the Academy for its faults, it's only fair that I recognize their successes. So let me know what you think, who you're rooting for, who you think got snubbed, any and all thoughts about this year's Grammys in the comments down below.